Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, and thank you all. Thank you all so much for being here. You are here because you have a role to play in helping businesses and really our country achieve what we've been talking about this morning. Achieve the resilience that's going to be needed to harness the transformative power of these new technologies, to ride out disruption, to adapt to it, to overcome it, to acknowledge and address legitimate fears, legitimate concerns and risks emerging from this disruption, but also to harness AI, guide its trajectory, lead our country to being stronger and more competitive. Here at the U.S. Chamber, we are AI optimists, whether that's about the role that AI plays in our own organization, for the broader workforce, or for our country. But we also know that optimism alone isn't going to be enough. It's not going to be enough to make the most of the revolutionary potential here. So this is what my speech said. My speech has this sentence in it. It will take practical insights, best practices, and partnerships. How boring are those words? Do you ever go to a conference where we don't talk about best practices and partnerships and practical insights? No, you don't. But I want to take this really seriously for a second. Maybe the most important thing I think you can think about while you're in this room. This actually has to happen. And I can't find rooms, and I travel the globe and talk to business leaders all day, every day. I can't find rooms like this where this is actually happening. And what I mean is humans have to come together to talk about the innovation, the transformation, the disruption, the fears, the excitement. Because if we don't come together and talk about these things and try to solve them at scale, no one else is. There isn't some other room of grown-ups trying to figure this out. We're the grown-ups. So I think it's really important that you're here and that you're taking this time away from your day jobs and your family and your schools to really help us think about how to do this well. One thing that I worry about is that we're not creating a compelling case about how these new technologies can help workers, can help families, can help communities. We haven't generated an aspiration for all. And it's going to take a movement to do that, comprised of people who are here in this room. We need AI developers and practitioners. We need employers and nonprofit leaders. We need academics and policymakers if we're going to create a movement. I'll say quickly that at the U.S. Chamber, the AI adoption has been really helpful to our ability to help businesses solve problems, serve their customers, strengthen society. We want to encourage and equip our teams all day long, every day, to use AI tools efficiently so that we can free up our energy, our best efforts on the highest value work we can do for our members. And we are constantly on the lookout for new tools, for new applications, for new use cases. We host an annual hackathon, now in its 4th year, to foster innovative thinking and collaborative problem solving. We want to reward and also implement creative solutions that streamline workflows. But looking beyond our organization, we see AI as the defining economic opportunity of this generation. We're not dismissing the disruption. In fact, can you have a revolutionary technology that isn't disruptive? I think those two words go hand in hand. But this doesn't have to mean a lack of progress. We've seen again and again throughout American history that when there are industrial and technological advances, they do lead to higher productivity, higher wages, a wave of new industries and jobs. And we know that this has the same potential many times over. So the question before the leaders in this room is, how do we get past the disruption and on to the advances? It's something I hear a lot from business leaders around the country. It's a kind of second-hand optimism. When we talk to people at the leading edge of this, I was on the West Coast 2 weeks ago talking to some of the most advanced companies in the world on these technologies, and they're very optimistic about the future. They're very optimistic about what it can do for health outcomes for our country, for progress. But even they are worried about their own family. Even they will say, I got a kid graduating, I'm not sure what the job is going to look like. It's a really interesting dichotomy to be excited about the future and still concerned about what it means specifically for yourself, for your family. So I think this disruption, when it gets closer to home, it's harder to wrap your head around. So I've said that I'm a business leader who's optimistic about AI. I'm also the mother of a college-age daughter. And she's thinking very seriously about all of this and has fascinating questions about her short-term and long-term future. And I think this is part of the dilemma we're all facing, that we all look at this from two different perspectives, a professional perspective and a personal perspective. So when I'm out and about with local chambers and small businesses, with executives who are in technology and executives who use technology, but it's not their main field, it's given me some sense of what's necessary, I think, for us to come together and do to move it forward. And I'd like to kind of humbly make two suggestions. One, about people who are feeling anxious about their lives or their families or the children in their lives that they need to coach and help. And the other, for the people who need to lead this change for all of society. On a personal level, here's what I tell my daughter, her friends, our interns. You know, you all know somebody from when you were young who had a perfect idea of what they wanted to do with their life. They knew exactly the path that they wanted to be on, and it didn't work. And some of those people that we knew when we were young, they felt so much more focused. They knew what they wanted to do. They had this great path. But then when it didn't work, they also felt a little bit more lost. This happens in every generation. Sometimes when you know what you want to do from a young age, the disruption hurts even more. But sometimes those people who have a 5 or 10-year roadmap are the most hurt when that plan falls apart. So the question is, how do we prepare the next generation for uncertainty, for disruption? How do we help the next generation develop a learning mindset? We've heard a lot already today about curiosity, about resilience, but what does that look like, right? What are we teaching the next generation? I asked my daughter, do you know how to ask the right question? Are you a critical thinker? Can you learn to ask the right question? Are you a discerning consumer of information? Do you know real news and real sources from urban legend and TikTok? The answer usually is no, by the way. I also ask the next generation to really think about what drives human connection, which is thankfully still at the core of what we do and how we live. Can you look people in the eye? Can you sell something? Can you tell a story? Can you create relationships? We heard earlier about trust. Can you create trust? Will people follow you? Will people believe you? These are the skill sets, these are the mindsets that will serve people through any disruption. On a broader business level, here's my charge to all of you as leaders. We can't let the doomsayers win. We've all seen the negative attitudes about AI. We've seen the public polling data. I thought it was really upsetting to see commencement speakers booed for using the term AI. But that means that we aren't doing the job of defining the dream of this next technology. It's our job to give hope and inspiration to the next generation. It's our generation's job to do that for the next generation. We also need to remind people to get outside, to appreciate art, to connect with something bigger than ourselves, to stop doom scrolling and go be with humans, to find things in animals and people to love, to remind ourselves we have a responsibility to be good citizens, to be good humans, that character matters. We have to model these things. We can't just model fear or uncertainty or doom scroll ourselves. Some of that is looking for and promoting good news, And here's some. We have been setting in the United States year after year records of new business applications. These aren't gig workers who can't find other work. These are people starting and applying for licenses to run real businesses, to serve customers, to employ people. There were nearly 6 million new businesses formed in the US in 2025. That was 8% more than 2024, which itself was a record, and so was 2023. And the sectors with the highest AI adoption rates have seen the strongest growth in new business applications. This is one of the first technologies in our history where we're seeing small business adopt faster than big business. And they're the companies reporting the most hiring. That means that these are people seeing the potential of AI and figuring out how they can make their dream come true as a result. I mean, small businesses are the first ones who come to mind. We have a small business member who's out in San Francisco and he owns a coffee shop. His father or grandfather started it in 1975. And I went to see it. He's using AI, and you would think, what is he using AI for in the coffee shop? And I assumed it was the online business, the ordering, something to do with that. Nope. You know when you open your package of coffee, how it's foil lined on the inside? Foil creates a lot of static. So they have to add a little bit of water to keep all that coffee from sticking to the top. But it's hard to do, and it's very manual. He was able to develop through AI his own little machine that sits at the top of that package and fixes the right amount of water every time. And he did it himself. It was a remarkable, interesting story that let him sell more coffee, which requires him to have more people. It's National Small Business Month in May. And at the U.S. Chamber, we want to celebrate how nimble these small businesses are. I will say when we do polling about the adoption rates of small business on AI, not only are the numbers really strong, but 82% of the small businesses that reported using AI tools were increasing their workforce. That's a really meaningful counterpoint to AI is only going to destroy jobs. But even as we are AI optimists, we also have to be realists. And the reality is that change is happening, and it's happening really fast. We can't let the doomsayers prevail because we think it would be dangerous to our country's future. But we know we have to manage risks of new technology while we acknowledge that the real risk is falling behind, letting other countries take the lead, only to run with it in a different direction. If we let other countries set the pace, if we let them lead and take the lead that America currently has, it will hurt our workforce. It will hurt our competitiveness. And so one of the reasons we're here today is to make sure that doesn't happen. How do we help broaden communities' understanding of AI? How do we create an aspiration for all so that we have more people who want this revolution to take place, who believe in the ultimate good of it? How do we break through the dystopian noise and make sure that there is a good story out there? Look, this is going to take courage and audacity. You are going to be called to lead your family, your community, your institution, your company through all of this. It's going to take a willingness to learn on your part, to adapt, to question our own assumptions. Path isn't going to be obvious. You've all seen the statistics of how long it took for different, like the Industrial Revolution happened over 100 years, right? The internet adoption took 20. Look how fast this is happening. So we know there are going to be challenges on the road to really long-term opportunity. But we also know that the future is here. We can't put it back in a bottle. It's up to us to make this transformation work for as many people as possible. It is up to us to be a force for good in this world and to not just name the problems, but to provide solutions. It's up to us to be leaders. Thank you.
For this transformation talk, welcome to the stage Julia Dar, behavioral economist and managing director and partner of Boston Consulting Group.